that again. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
You're not trying to embarrass me. Safe.
So dry.
Safe.
No, good afternoon. Well, look, I think Yomi read out my biog, so I'm an academic, and I suppose what I'll share, given the subject that we'll be exploring this afternoon, is there's nothing about my 25-year career that has been easy. It has been marked by a number of challenges and fights at particular moments. And I think there's always this sense as a black woman, as a black person in the UK and as a black woman, of constantly having to be on alert, of constantly having to strategize, to navigate, to work out, to check, look over one's shoulder. So my area of interest is around policy and racial justice. So I've done research on the black middle classes in the UK. I have to say that bit because people don't often think there are black middle classes in the UK. And so we were interested in looking at how they get their children through the school system and whether being middle class offers any protection from some of the barriers that we're all familiar with. People may be familiar with some research I did a few years ago on black female professors, and there's a lot of link actually in terms of the things you were saying, Heather, and the experiences of those women, which at the time I was not yet a professor, and it was incredibly, not shocking, but I think quite sad to think that we live in a society that places so much emphasis on social mobility and achievement and talks about itself as a democracy, and yet these women were facing continued barriers in terms of their progress. And many of them talked about the impact that it had on their well-being and on their health in really quite extreme ways, and I'm sure we'll come on to that. And in terms of what interests me, because I've been in my field for a while now, I've begun to see some of the patterns in terms of the ways in which those in positions of power talk about race and give us the impression that we're making progress, but yet when you look at the data, it says the complete opposite. And so I think the questions that I have whirling around my head that we may well explore this afternoon are, is it possible to be in the UK as a black person? And when I say black person, I realise so many of my spaces are policy spaces, I wouldn't usually speak like this, but I do mean black, 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 black. And let me just qualify that, just in case I get quoted out of turn, and qualify it in an academic way. It's those black people who understand and are connected to their racialised identity and culture. And I mean that very clearly. So I think if you're quoting me in terms of the black, black, black piece, I mean that whole side. Because there are black people of colour, who downplay their racialised identity and have no deep connection to their culture. And I think it's really important, if we're going to think about our experiences in this country, that we take account of that in a mature way and understand that. But I'm interested also, I have to say a little bit kind of creative, otherwise I'm going to just seem like a dry academic. So I am really interested, given my subject area, not just talking to other academics, because it doesn't make sense to me as a black woman specialising in racial justice just to sit in rooms with other academics coming up with all these convoluted words and theories. These issues affect me, they affect people who look like me, and I've got to be able to communicate them in a way that makes sense to a broad audience. So as a result, that shapes the spaces that I enter into and the kind of things that I do. So when I did the research on black female professors, as well as being struck by their journeys and their stories, I wanted to find a way of giving a platform to them. Because some of them are the only black person in some far-off university the other side of the UK. And I felt that what they were doing was so important that other people should know about it, not just people within academia, and certainly not just people within their particular sphere, their subject area. And so I commissioned a photographer to take portraits of each of the women, and that was installed at London South Bank Centre. Unfortunately, timed with lockdown. But again, it was about saying that this is who we are. We're not just the version of what you present to us, but this is what we do. These are our achievements while acknowledging the struggles to get there.
Amazing.